Hello and welcome to a recorded webinar that we have entitled BirdSeed Included Tools. In the next few minutes, we're going to go over each of the built-in tools that BirdSeed offers. Now, I'm going to go into pretty great detail about each of the tools, so I'm not going to mention them here, but I do want to just give you some detail about the four general categories that we put potential buyers in. The first category is what we call early stage, right? Those who don't know exactly what you offer, the product, the service, whatever it might be. And so they are really just trying to understand that better. They're maybe collecting information for later, but at this point, they just want a better grasp on what it is that you provide. The second category, right, are those that are a little bit further along and they know probably what you offer, but they're trying to understand if you are the best solution for their needs. Maybe it's a problem they need to have solved. Maybe it's just something they really want. And, so you are really trying to establish credibility as that best solution. Maybe it's comparing you to a competitor, a direct competitor. Maybe it's just going a different direction altogether, but you are trying to create yourself as the best solution. So let's say someone knows what you offer. They are feeling pretty good about what, you as the best solution. So they're considering you as that. And now before they buy, they maybe want to connect with you real time. They're willing to give you some sort of information or at least move from an anonymous IP address, and they want to interact with you real time. Well, different tools are needed based upon their preferences. Then the final category would be basically when you're not available, right? You need something at all times because people are visiting your website 24 hours a day. You need something that makes it always contextually relevant for the visitor that comes to your website. So on the weekends or after hours, as an example, depending on when you're available, you need to have something that allows them to, what we always say, move the relationship forward, get closer towards buying your product or service. So those are our four general categories, and we'll see those kind of mentioned as we go into detail on each tool. Before we begin, just want to mention this webinar is led by myself. My name is Drew Sheehan. I am the founder of BirdSeed. If you have any questions, feel free to stop this video. And if you're, again, watching it on our website, you'll see a button down in the bottom right-hand corner. Coincidentally, that is BirdSeed, but depending on when you are trying to watch this, if we're available real time, more than likely live chat will be active. If it's after hours, you'll be able to ask a question and we'll get back in touch with you with a response as quickly as possible. The third thing I'll kind of mention is that beyond these recorded webinars, including the one that you're watching currently, we also have training videos in our video academy that you'll see in the header of our website. You can join our Facebook group where other people are, discussing what they can do with the product, with the tool, their needs. Just a great place to ask questions, maybe even get help if it's more of a general question, but a great way to connect with other people who are using BirdSeed. And then the final thing is, we'll just mention, feel free to open a ticket. As I mentioned, if it's more of a buying related question, feel free to, send a message on our website. If you are a current customer, you can just log in and open up a ticket, which will emulate and be very similar to a contact form. But again, we'll respond back to you in that regard. Okay, so let's start with the first tool and the category, as we mentioned, being early stage buyers. Our first tool is what we call our knowledge base. Sometimes you call it just an FAQ. Depends on whatever nomenclature you want to go with. The way we have set our knowledge base tool up is that it is a series of questions and answers that can be organized into sections or categories. People can choose questions by sections or categories, or they can simply search at the top for questions. So, they're able to quickly get information and find the question they're looking for, provided that it is included. You are also able to, any question and answer, you're able to provide media as part of the answer. So as a perfect example, and a very common example, is every question that you have, which you answer, You could also record a video of someone answering that question to give a very personal and human touch. The final thing I'll mention is that in our application, you are actually able to also see what people have searched for. So if there's a question that you're missing, you can add that question after the fact, and you can see which questions are being clicked on the most. So you can see your most popular questions. I guess the most general need for this, or the best way of looking at it really, would be what are the questions that any potential buyer would need to have answered in order for them to feel comfortable buying your product? What do they need to know about you that there might not be any other easy way to find it? Perfect example, by the way, is in live chat conversations. What are people asking? Any question that you get asked, especially on a repetitive basis, you might want to add it to your knowledge base. The second tool we have is our video showcase tool. You're able to embed videos from Vimeo, YouTube, or any other third-party video provider that you host videos with. And you can actually record videos right directly into the video showcase. The goal here is just to create a visual representation of your product, of employees mentioning your product. It creates, in many ways, the same experience as a recorded webinar because you can break it up into shorter videos. If you are someone who sells products on your website, let's say you sold watches, for instance, you could even do a series of videos describing different watches that you have. So even though it's not a live experience, it can feel live to your visitors. The goal here is to bring video that you have, maybe to other places, maybe you have them on YouTube or you have them on Vimeo, but to bring it front and center on your website and make sure that people see all of the really important videos to learn more about your service or your product. The final tool that we have in this first category is what we call our link launcher tool. Now, it's in theory very, very simple, right? It is a way of providing some text and then taking someone to a page. That could be a page on your website. That could be a tool that you have on your website. So for instance, one of our tools, which we'll get to a little bit later, will be our meeting scheduling tool. Well, if you're already using your meeting scheduling tool, you already have your own, you can use Link Launcher, take visitors right to that tool. We don't need to replace a tool that you already have, but it allows you to put a link to it right within kind of our ecosystem of our engagement panel of all your other tools. One other way you can use Link Launcher is that we can trigger a few different, at this point, third-party live chat products. So if you don't want to use our native live chat, currently we can integrate Intercom, Help Crunch, as well as live chat, the live chat being the company name, those three products. So if you use those currently, you can trigger those within our product. The final thing might be, that if there is a resource or some information that you really need to point your visitors to, sometimes that's not even on your website, but it can give better context for your business, for the industry. It could be a special that you have, whatever it might be, but something that you find is very, very important for them to see information-wise. So now we move into the categories we talked about where people know what you offer, but they're trying to understand if you are the best solution for their needs. The most common and the most obvious way probably would be customer testimonials. These can be either text or video or both testimonials. And not only do we provide them and display them on your website for you, we actually provide you with a link where you can then also collect them directly from your customers. When we think of testimonials, a lot of times we think of it as, kind of proof that you like a company, right? You want people to say, oh, we really love working with this company because, they offer X, Y, or Z. So it builds trust. But another way of looking at it actually is also helping your customers to kind of put them in your current customer shoes. And what I mean by that is not just that they trust that you offer a product that is good, but also that it's relevant to them. So one of the things you may want to ask your customers is to think about how they use your product or service, right? What benefits are they deriving from it? So again, it becomes not just a matter of trust, but also a way that they can understand how it would also relate to their needs. So a very, very powerful tool. The second one is what we call our event announcements tool. This is one of those tools that can be used a ton of different ways. But generally, I would kind of put it in three categories. The first one would be recent news, things that have happened recently that you're just kind of giving an update. It allows you to create your own curated feed of information, similar to what you'd find on like an Facebook or an Instagram feed of things that have happened recently, but it allows you to choose your own and whatever might be appropriate for your website. Now, the nice part about this is that, not only does it have to be text, but it can also include media such as images, GIFs, videos. So it can be very, very beautiful at the same time. The other way of using our product is not just recent news, but it could be things that you have coming up, right? It could be events that you're going to be attending. It could be opportunities for people to get involved in. There's three ways of collecting basic feedback. We have a way of allowing people to upvote things. They can provide their email address so that it can be related to a specific event that you add. Or they can downvote or upvote something, right? Like or dislike one of the items that you add. Just a very simple, anonymized way of interacting with you. And then, of course, the third way of using our product would be in more of a static fashion. So let's say you're not using it to create a relevancy or to let you know that your website's up to date. Maybe you are trying to show a timeline of how your customers work with you. So like an example timeline. Let's say you are a attorney that has a 6 to 12 month process when you work with your customers, and you want to demonstrate to potential new clients of exactly what it might look like. You can use this tool in that capacity. So we just want to give you a couple of different examples. Honestly, there's probably many more ways that you could use and that our current customers use this tool. But, I would say the most common thing that you are trying to create, the value you're trying to have your visitors derive, is that they can see that your website and your business are current, that you have things going on. As I mentioned before, you can talk about things that have happened recently or things that are happening in the future, and each of those can include a date as well. So it'll let someone know, hey, things are up to date, so to speak. The next tool is our user feedback tool, and similar to the event announcements, this is a tool can really be used a number of different ways. There's two general purposes, though. The first one is to collect feedback. You can collect feedback about maybe your business, maybe about the visitor's experience on your website that day. Maybe it's general knowledge about the industry, just to get a feel for your potential customers and their understanding of your industry. But we have three different types of questions. The first one is our star rating, which you can see a picture of at the top there. The second one would be sentiment based, right? Agree or disagree, and you can really customize the text for each one of those as well to make them specific to your needs. The third way is to offer a multiple choice, which of course would then include true, false, right? Two options. And the nice part about this is that not only are you able to collect information, but it's a great way of actually educating your customers through a basic quiz. You ask questions in a series, right? So you add a question, which they can either answer or skip. Then you can add another question. And so you keep it very simple. And each time they answer a question, you actually get notified of that real time. The nice part that really keeps your engagement high on these type of things is that they're very anonymous. So people feel comfortable providing information to you. But the nice part about the multiple choice question is that you are not only able to introduce your questions with media, such as an introduction video explaining the question you're about to ask, but for any answer that a visitor provides to you, you can actually have a response video or text as well. So the nice part about this is that you're then able to almost try and educate or inform or persuade them, so to speak. Let me give you an example. Let's say you ask a question that discusses price points for your product, right? For instance, you ask someone, what would you expect to pay for this service? You have 3 different price ranges, right? And you fit into one of the 3 price ranges. Well, if they answer the other 2, you're able to explain why they don't want to have those 2 price ranges. And then if they answer correctly, right, the price that you provide your service at, you can actually validate their answer. So it's just a great way of super quickly helping to educate your customers about your product or service as well. So now we get into ways that your customers are able to contact you real time. And this is our phone contact tool, and it's pretty self-explanatory. There's up to 3 components. You can have 1, you can have 2, or you can have 3 of them. You can turn off and turn on the map as well as the hours of operation. But the core is your phone number, which displays at the top. You can display multiple phone numbers for different departments, for different locations. And in fact, if you just have 1 or 2 locations, you actually can create separate locations altogether. And what I mean by that is that sometimes you want to keep it all together, but there are other times where maybe it's in a different physical location. So you might want to create a different section. If you see on the left-hand side, we mentioned headquarters, Florida Direct, and downtown. Those can be all different locations with kind of their own address and hours of operation. So you can really customize this based upon your own business needs. For the address, the nice part there is that you can keep it, you can have a very specific address if you have a physical location, or it can just simply be on a city level, a state level, a country level, just to provide your visitors and your potential customers with context of where you are to see if it's relevant to their needs. The nice part about the phone contact tool, if you think about it, is we are so used to, in the past, just adding a phone number right to the header of our websites. And that was what we were very accustomed to doing for a long time. Well, it took up very valuable real estate on our website. But the bigger issue is that if somebody clicked on your website at, let's say, 5:30 p.m., but you closed and you left at 5 o'clock, it's of no value to them. And in fact, it's probably frustrating when they call and they find out that you're closed. So the nice part about this tool, and we'll talk a little bit more about this generally speaking in a moment, but this tool, you can set it to only show when you're open. So the nice part is that they won't see this after hours, but they will see other tools that are contextually valuable and relevant and basically active at other times. So that's our phone contact tool. The next tool is our call request tool. There are times when a visitor comes to your website and they want to make it very, very easy on themselves to be able to have you call them. They don't want to, have to figure out who to get through to. They don't want to have to take a lot of time. They just want to make it very easy on themselves. Another reason why you might want to use it this way is because you either don't have a phone number that you can display on your website, or frankly, just don't want to give it out. So this is another way, especially in a sales capacity, to let someone enter their phone number and potentially some other information. You can collect other fields such as their name, what they're needing, and they can press a button and it gets sent over to you similar to a live chat request. And whoever decides to see that and take it can click a button, and then the visitor either sees your profile picture or at least your name, but they have context now of who will be calling them and when. For you as the operator, what's nice is, again, you have a little more context, potentially of what they need, who they are, where they are. It makes things more comfortable for both parties. Now, we do not include the phone service, just want to be clear. The reason for this is really twofold. One, we don't want anything that increases our costs that we have to pass on to you. As you've probably very aware, we try and keep our cost structure very, very low. But also, most people have not just a phone these days, but they have many different ways of using their phone. So, for instance, a lot of times you have a voice over IP that has an app on your phone. Well, if you use our mobile app, right, and the call request comes through, you can click the button, choose to use your app that's on your phone, and so you can call really right from your business phone through your cell phone, if that makes sense. There's just a number of ways of making it look like the business is calling them, but you'd be able to do it from anywhere that you are. So that is our call request tool, and very, very powerful. The next tool that we have, and the final one for our real-time tools, is our live chat. This is pretty self-explanatory, so I won't spend a ton of time here, but it allows people to ask questions and to, with very little friction, get in answers as quickly as possible from a real person. This is not a chatbot. We don't consider our product to be a chatbot at all, and that'd probably be a separate conversation for a separate video, but this is powered by real people. So anyone in your organization that is able to respond from a desktop or from a mobile app, you can take live chat requests. Now, you'll see a little video right there. There's one caveat to our live chat that we really do want to mention, and it's really the thing that makes our live chat incredibly unique. And in fact, it's a patented feature that we patented a couple years ago because we believed that video would be incredibly important. The last 2 years, it's become even more important than we realized for different reasons, unfortunately. But we have always seen the benefit and the value in connecting two humans that maybe will never physically meet, never be in the exact same location. But if they can actually see each other in some capacity, it creates a human bond. And as we know, we buy from people that we know, like, and trust. So we had originally looked at the idea of live streaming video, and there are certainly ways that you can do it within our product through a third party, and that's a separate conversation. But what we did patent was the ability to press a button, record a video as an operator instantly. If you don't like it, you just re-record. And if you do, you push it right over in the live chat to the visitor. So they're able to see you, you're able to answer questions, and both parties are able to be very comfortable during that experience. There's a number of challenges with live streaming that we were able to overcome with this, which again, I won't go into in this demo, but we did want to talk about the tool, right, and the value of the tool. The three most common scenarios that we see it used for is the beginning of the chat, when you are trying to personally welcome someone and let them know that they're not just talking to a robot, they're talking to a real human being. It really sets up the rest of the conversation well. The second thing is if there's ever a time during the conversation where there's either a complex question or a question that maybe somebody would normally just disconnect right afterwards, it just allows you to provide empathy, explain things a little better, and keep them connected in the chat. The final scenario, and just to give another example of how you could use it, you might find your own use cases, would be that you're able to prompt someone towards the end of the conversation to take their next step. It's a lot harder to tell someone no when they're standing in front of you, right? We always find that if you were standing right in front of someone, you're more likely to say yes. But if it's a phone call, it's a lot easier to just get off the phone. Well, we've bridged that gap by having these videos so that towards the end, if you were to say, hey, I'd really suggest that maybe we jump on a phone call now, or that you fill out this form, or that you sign up for something, it allows them to create more of a human bond with you in the process. So those are our instant video responses. Now we're moving into our final category, and these are the tools that are used, as I mentioned, when it's after hours, when you're not available to respond real time, but you want to provide value at any moment. So the first one is our email capture tool. And, I think a lot of times people, they nonchalantly, they just say, well, let someone sign up for a newsletter. And that's great. And that can work and that can be really powerful. But there are opportunities, I think, to do other things, to suggest or to offer other values in exchange for the visitor's email address, to create kind of a soft sale or a soft touch early on in the process. Maybe that's providing a brochure. Maybe that's providing coupons so that they feel incentivized to come back. Maybe it's providing a quote to them for your product or your service. Maybe there's some sort of digital download that you can provide to them. You can certainly get very unique with that, but it also can be very, very powerful. I'll just mention again that this is one of those tools where you can have media as an introduction, including video. So, perfect example would be you're able to have someone within your organization detail whatever it is that you're going to be providing them, which really increases your chances of conversion because they know that it's coming from a real human being. So that's our email capture tool. The next thing is our scheduled meeting tool. Now, just to be very clear up front, our tool is used for sales and marketing purposes. Very, very simply put, it allows someone to set a specific time in the future where they know they are going to have a meeting with you. So for instance, they're on your website at 10 o'clock at night, that you're not available real time, but they know that now they can set a call for Tuesday at 10 a.m. It allows them to kind of check, things off their list, check the box for accomplishing something and have something set with you. You're able to establish your hours of operation. You can choose different meeting types. You can choose who's involved, the length of the meeting. You can sync with Google Calendar and block off already, your calendar and appointments that have already been added, as well as add them back to your Google Calendar. So it's very, very simple, but very, very important and very, very powerful. Again, just to reiterate, if you have a tool that you need for booking purposes, right? If it's a tool, let's say you are someone who is a hairdresser, right? And you want someone to book appointments, or you're a pet groomer, that wants to set appointments, or you're an electrician that has a scheduling software. Any of those things, you would want to use our link launcher tool to send visitors directly to whatever product is best geared for, how you run your business appointments. So we would not suggest that for this tool. This is simply, and again, a sales and marketing capacity, but can be very, very helpful. And then the final tool is our contact form. Pretty obvious, but again, you're able to add media to the top, and you're able to customize whatever forms you want. Not just the number of forms, not just the text, but actually we have different categories. So for instance, our email capture form that you're able to add, it validates for an email. So that is our contact form, pretty self-explanatory. But remember, because you are triggering this from a button that you can add to any and every page, it brings the contact form available to a visitor from any place on your website. All right. Well, we just went through a lot of tools. And so it's very easy for someone to be thinking, oh my gosh, that is so overwhelming. I don't want to add 12 tools to my website. So we just want to be clear that no one uses all of our tools, right? You don't need to use all 12. No one uses all 12. You probably, frankly, already have some of those tools, but you are able to have it available from any page at any time, and they are all put together in one engagement panel. So you have multiple options without overwhelming the visitor. And our goal with these tools is to keep our content, or keep rather your content, separate from our engagement tools that you're able to add. A couple other things just to mention is that you can highlight tools. You are able to group your tools so they seem less overwhelming to visitors when they first see them. And as I mentioned earlier, you're able to set your hours of operation. And then for every tool, you're able to decide, will it display at all times, only during business hours, or only after hours. So you can basically, pick and choose when different tools are available at different times. So let's just wrap up now with, again, just reiterating how you can get started very, very easily and totally for free. You create your account, which takes about 2 minutes to do. We'll send you an email based upon the email address that you want to start with, providing a little more details. Then you'll just choose what of your tools you want to get started with in your engagement panel. Customize what the panel actually looks like, but most of that stuff is already relatively set for you. And then you simply add one line of code to your website and you are live. So as we always do with our webinars, we just leave you with 3 quick questions. In reference to these tools, it's super important to understand or to think about, is your website important to your sales process, right? Do you consider that moment that someone visits your website as an important step in their decision-making process? If so, do you understand or have you thought about the needs of your different visitors? I know that all of us in different stages of our business, we're so busy in our business that we just don't even put ourselves in the shoes of people. We just say, hey, we've got a great product or service, they should buy, and we kind of expect them to and hope that they do. So when you think about the different categories we discussed here, do you feel like you have understood the mindset and the needs of those visitors? Then the final question I would say is, if your website's important and if you've thought through the needs that they have, do you have the different tools? Do you have the different ways of meeting the needs for each of those visitors where they are? If so, that is wonderful and we appreciate it. But as I mentioned, my name is Drew, and thank you so much for joining us today in this webinar.